Hey guys, Zane from the Infinite Jukebox here with another album review, and today I wanted to talk about the new A Boogie with the Hoodie record, Me vs. Myself. Me vs. Myself is the latest studio album from rapper A Boogie with the Hoodie, one of the most contentious, we'll say, performers within the rap industry at the moment, as you either think he's a talentless hack or you think he's one of the most electric MCs in the game right now. Now, I've personally always fallen into the former category, as he's created some of the worst mainstream rap of the past few years, in my personal opinion. That being said, Me vs. Myself, while it isn't great, or even good for that matter, it isn't horrible either, which is kind of shocking and is almost great by his standards. Boogie's flows and songwriting throughout the entirety of Me vs. Myself are significantly better than a lot of the work that he's done in the past. Now, that's not to say that either of those factors of this record are particularly good. They're still mediocre at best 90% of the time, but at the same time, they don't make me groan in annoyance and wish that I was doing something more entertaining, like, say, shoving bamboo shoots under my nails or waterboarding myself. My point is, it's better by his standards, and I can't say that I totally hate this record from that perspective. So far, at least, this record may very well be the peak of Boogie's performance and his peak as a lyricist as well. And that's not a compliment, that's just a commentary on how thankful I am at this point for pure mediocrity. The production on Me vs. Myself is pretty nice too. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and praise this up and down as some, godsend album that's just so beautifully produced and it's the most immaculate thing I've ever heard in my life. But hey, it sounds fresh, it sounds contemporary, it sounds modern, it suits Boogie's particular style of flow and his particular brand of rapping, and overall it just sounds pretty good. The samples that get made use of here feel pretty appropriate overall in my eyes, and I have to say that for the most part at least, it makes for an album that is pretty easy on the ears, and that is arguably, at least to an extent, what actually defines the easy to stomach nature of this record. It's not so much that Boogie's doing some great work or anything like that, it's still incredibly mediocre, and this album's arguably too long for its own good, but at the same time, it really is easy to listen to, and it just kind of flows pretty naturally overall, largely in thanks to that decent production. There's also some features on Me vs. Myself coming from people like G Herbo and Kodak Black, and all of them are pretty fine for the most part, sans the absolutely laughable Tory Lanez joint on Take Shots, which is easily one of the worst appearances on any sort of guest featuring song that I've heard all year, and the rest of that song isn't particularly bad, and the song itself isn't horrible, it's just that Tory Lanez is being Tory Lanez. That being said, Me vs. Myself still could have used more features, actually, because the middle point of this record really doesn't have any except for a single Lil Durk feature, which just isn't enough overall, and A Boogie with the Hoodie is not a strong enough performer to hold his own for that extended of a period of time. He's the ultimate example of someone that I can understand liking the singles of, because in a single format, just a song or two, he works. He can work in that format because it's the brevity that works for him. But people who really just adore his full albums, I struggle relating to, because I truly don't understand how someone can consider him a strong enough performer to be easily listenable for an hour or more. He's certainly not throughout this entire record, and the features are primarily what keep me interested, because although this isn't a terrible record, because again, Boogie's performances aren't bad, lyricism's been worse, and I mean the features are decent for the most part, I still really do feel like this is a boring listening experience. It's just not a bad one either, and it's harder to criticize compared to his previous works. But the point is, overall, I digress. There needs to be more features here. I would have less of a problem with there being less features than there are just Boogie solo songs here if he tried to do something different. But he doesn't, and that's the issue. Lyrically, a lot of songs begin to repeat themselves. In terms of flow, he begins to repeat himself a lot. There are a couple times where he sort of falls off beat a little bit, which is not necessarily the most shocking thing by his standards, but that doesn't make it respectable or even forgivable either. And for the most part, this record just kind of feels like a lot of rinsing and repeating of things that he's done in the past, and track to track, it's easy to get kind of confused as it uses the same nice sounding but still mildly ethereal but not quite super shiny production style, and all in all, this is just kind of one of those albums that rolls by, and it could have made a little bit nicer if it had more features, maybe more distinct features, because the features that are here, like the aforementioned Kodak Black, are fine but not absolutely amazing either. I really do think that if Boogie tried to actually do something different from song to song and evolve as an artist, this could have been a much better outing, because there would have been a point of artistic growth for him, but it's not. It's just him kind of repeating the same things that he's been repeating for multiple years and multiple records now at this point, and it's not necessarily the most disheartening thing because it's kind of predictable, but that doesn't stop it from being somewhat frustrating and mildly annoying when you have to sit down and listen to the entire record from front to back. If it was intentional for this portion of the album to be relatively featureless, that aforementioned middle portion, then it was a poor creative decision. And if it was not intentional and it was just sort of how things ended up, which is fairly understandable, I suppose, then it's a shame, because I really found myself just bored to tears by that point, knowing that there's nothing remotely different coming up anytime soon until that previously mentioned Lil Durk feature. And again, like I said, I really do think that this record could have been much more if Boogie tried to grow artistically, but he doesn't. He's just rinsing and repeating the same things he's done for multiple album cycles now shamelessly, and while that's respectable, I suppose, I really don't see why it warrants a full record, let alone one that's over an hour long. And hey, who knows, maybe that lack of features was Boogie trying to grow as an artist, but if it was, then it definitely wasn't showing through, and I found myself dreadfully bored to tears even, from About Money conversations to Come Here. So overall, Me vs. Myself is probably the best album from A Boogie with the Hoodie, and that's something, I guess. I mean, it's not a particularly bad album, but it's most certainly not good or even decent either, and unless you're some sort of ride or die for Boogie as an artist, I really don't see why anyone needs to be going out and listening to this record when there's so many more interesting rap albums and even pop rap albums to come out so far in this year for music. I'm going to give this record 2.5 stars out of 5. And with that being said, that is the end of this album review. I have been Zane from the Infinite Jukebox. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.